I'll be 100% candid and I'll open and honest. Application development, system integration can sometimes be a little bit of a daunting task and a daunting um, culture. It's different than other types of engagements. It can sometimes be scary. You're not quite exactly sure. There are thousands of things out there that clients are dealing with, and it's a different world than a lot of our backgrounds. I come from the value-added reseller space, a little bit around data center operations and cybersecurity. Um, and application development, when we started our practice in this space about 15 years ago, it was new, right? It was new for our company. It was new for our business, but we've this is now one of the fastest growing areas because if you've joined any of our previous sessions or any of our previous uh, boot camps, you know that our go-to-market at Quest and through you as our partners is how can we help? And what we've seen over the last 5 to 10 years, especially ramp up very significantly, is organizations needing help with application development and complex system integration projects, right? So let's dive into it as far as what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to be looking a little bit at the current application landscape, which is a little bit of a misnomer because the application landscape is always changing and evolving. So what we're going to be going through is just some basics around terminology and how to evaluate what your customers may or may not be dealing with. We're going to be going through some challenges, some common issues, and when you can engage or when you can, potentially be of value and help them through a couple of those challenges. Like all of our security, infrastructure, and other aspects of technology, of the technology landscape, you gotta look for that catalyst. When, what can spark that discussion? What can spark that opportunity? Sometimes it's pain, trouble, challenges, just being aware of what your customers are dealing with. And then Quest does a lot of agile development. We're going to talk a little bit about the basics of agile and that methodology versus some other approaches to app dev. And then as far as what you're going to be gaining, hey, all your customers are dealing with this. All your customers are dealing with challenges around this in the application and system integration space. So we're going to learn a little bit about that, how to position, the value and what you can, as a Quest partner, can deliver. And then a little bit of how we approach it specifically, right? So a little bit of differentiation there and how we can help. And again, we want to make sure that these are quality training exercises for you. Get your the juices flowing and the topics going, the gears grinding a little bit there. How are we going to look at the opportunity? How are we going to look at the responsibility your customers are dealing with, and then how you can plug in and help them. Again, we're going to be covering a little basic knowledge around agile. And then, just some, people like to be conversational. I like to be conversational around, general topics and how you can help people. So, basic operating systems, basic application languages. It's really, it's a different way of discussing capabilities. It's a little bit, a couple different languages, a couple different key topics in there, but everybody's dealing with this. So, that's going to be what we're covering today. Now, similar to security, one of the areas I believe that we are seeing such a growth in this division of our business is because applications are core to everything that we do, from IT integration projects and IT services. I don't care if it's the physical network, the wireless, the core route switch, the data center, the cloud operations, all of those, utility services, if you will, the building blocks that go into supporting your clients, telecommunications, transport, backups, those are all around supporting the application. And the applications are critical to business operations. It's the lifeblood of everything that they do. I don't care if they're in financial services, healthcare, retail, government, every single vertical has critical applications at the heart of their business. These are the crown jewels. This is what drives new revenue. This is what drives their customer experience. This is what drives, their bookings and their financial systems and their reporting and their ability to, forecast revenue, forecast, scheduling manufacturing processes, everything is tied into the applications these days. You heard terms like digital transformation. Some people are pretty far ahead in that. Some people are still using legacy systems, on-prem, SaaS. We're going to get into a couple of those different things in a couple of slides here. But every single one of your customers is dealing with managing their application set, with integrating different applications, on-prem, off-prem, SaaS, and cloud, private, in-house. They're all dealing with this, and they're all trying to support their customers and support their users. This is changing very, very quickly. So every single customer is dealing with it, and they're all kind of going through what we consider kind of these top 10 issues of why they're doing with it, right? They're trying to be more efficient, do more with less, right? Everyone's trying to optimize as much as they can. It's a competitive landscape out there. I don't know about you guys, but just as an individual, retail consumer, I get onto a web application. Maybe I like a new pair of running shoes or something like that. If I log in to that application and I try to buy that pair of running shoes or that new shirt or whatever, and it takes more than a couple seconds, I might jump out of that queue. I might no longer be in that purchasing stream. So real dollars are at stake for companies who are trying to service end users and clients to make it easy. We're a very, very convenience-based culture right now. If it's not simple to transact, people lose business, right? So I don't care if it's on Instagram or if it's on AWS or wherever you're purchasing things online. People lose money because that user experience, that tie in with their CRM around drop shipping and all that kind of good information, those are all automated applications that had to be developed, right? And that had to be very, very seamlessly integrated in order to make that transaction efficient for the end user. So user experience, database integration, all these things, huge competitive edge if you can make it simple for your customers to transact business. You see things like it used to be kind of a big deal, 8 years ago, people using, things like DocuSign. Now it's like standard. If you don't have a digital signing application tied into your business, people kind of look at you like you're in the Stone Age, right? So we all have seen these developments happen, and that's all been from development, right? User experience development and tying in different applications. So customer experience, cost savings, being competitive. And then once your efficiency is developed, the scalability, right? Your clients want to scale. They want to do more with less, and they want to do it millions of times. So scalability really drives this. Now the 7 and 8 are not as fun, right? We love to talk about saving money. We love to talk about selling a lot more. We love to talk about winning against the competition. But something that when Quest gets involved in application development is a big piece of security around those application plugins, the APIs, and that actual code review. So part of the DevOps process and the Agile methodology we're going to go through, you got to have security. You got to test the code. You got to authenticate. You got to make sure there's people aren't being lazy and using some developed code and packages that, in order to kind of plug things together that maybe has some vulnerabilities in it. So like everything, the more you move down the convenience path, the more, the longer the tail of potential security vulnerabilities are there. So that has to be audited and managed at all times. Your customers are dealing with that. Huge opportunity in the security space around application development and APIs. We'll get into that a little bit in a bit. And then again, compliance and mandates coming down from the government sector and from folks who are audited and managed. Compliance continually is going to push on people to integrate their applications in an approved manner. So those are ways you gotta take a look at that. If it's a financial industry, if it's compliance, PCI, all of those different types of things are evolving all the time. So understanding your compliance with your customers, what's being kind of forced upon them in order to do their business, great opportunity to chat with them and start a conversation around what they're dealing with. And then of course, simplification, making it a simple way to engage with customers and a simple way to view their data. Some of our largest application development projects have been around just helping an organization present data in a clear and efficient way. So using, Power BI tools and automate and things like that, going into someone's CRM or going into someone's ERP system and presenting that data back to their leadership in a clean and efficient way that's, easy to see and easy to make decisions with is a huge opportunity too. So these are the top 10 reasons we're seeing organizations why get involved in application development. And some other trends that we're seeing, at least these are trends that they were already in place, but these are kind of the top five that we're seeing in 2024, and these are continuing on. Containerization and microservices, things like Docker, they are making the ability to take large applications and break them into subsets and do modular based development. Huge opportunity there. So having a conversation with your customers around, hey, what are you guys doing around containerization or microservices? Do you need any help with that? That's a trend that's continuing. And more and more organizations are developing and transitioning legacy applications into these microservices architectures. Hugely popular, a lot of opportunities there. AI, definitely the buzzword of the year. Last couple of years, we're seeing organizations leveraging artificial intelligence and using that in their development process. It's kind of helping to automate, the creation of code and helping with, things like virtual assistants and image recognition, and they're plugging in these AI tools and these machine learning based tools into their applications. So that's getting more and more prolific out there as we're seeing people that it could be just from, the input of data, taking images and transitioning that into script and into entrance into your CRM or into your sales automation. I don't know if anyone's played around with, Copilot at all, but Copilot has developed some pretty cool integrations with, some of the CRMs out there. We're all sales people here, and I know how much I love updating CRM notes and things like that. But these machine learning and AI based systems are helping with basic administration tasks around updating notes, summarizing meetings, summarizing engagements with customers. All those types of things are pretty powerful tools. So we're seeing more and more of that AI integration from a trend standpoint. So the security, put my security hat on, this one right here, this trend, this is not saying it's a security vulnerability, but this is where humans are humans. And I don't care if you're developing AI or machine learning, it's still humans, driving the ship. And as long as humans are driving the ship, sometimes we're lazy. And sometimes, in low code and no code environments, you got to make sure that you're auditing the platforms and what you're using as a low code or a no code situation. So this is basically low code or no code means that you don't have to be extremely fluent in the application language. These are kind of more plug and play. So it's a little bit, they call it the democratization of development, which is great. But at the same time, as you use those platforms, you really want to go back and make sure that the security aspect of that is being managed. So those low code and no code and AI integration is fantastic, but definitely make sure that as an opportunity, just talking with clients, let's do some due diligence on that and make sure that's being audited. One of the things we're also seeing is, progressive web apps, right? So people basically taking application experience and putting it on web browsers, right? So it's very similar to how, maybe you're used to using an Excel document on your local PC. But, if you want to use some of these, latest and greatest tools, you're really going through a browser interface. Feels and looks the same, right? So if you've used like different Microsoft tools online or different versions of your CSP subscriptions from a hosted perspective. Very similar look and feel. It's basically being presented to you through a browser. And then the last one that we're continuing to see as a big trend is edge computing. So putting the power and the analytics and the actual decision-making process at the edge, right? So it doesn't have to go back to a data center. It doesn't have to go back to a hosted hub or to where the client's infrastructure is. All of those analytics and all of that processing and performance is being hosted at the edge. Small compute environments, obviously these chips are amazing, what they can power, but edge computing services and putting that analytics, at the edge, think IoT, think, video surveillance and kind of automated driving capabilities, things like that. Those are all going at the edge, and there has to be development to help integrate that edge compute with the longer integration points at the data center level. So tons of opportunity in 2024. We do a lot with Microsoft. We do a lot with other organizations as well, but I know a lot of you on here, everyone in here kind of, from one level or another touches the Microsoft ecosystem. So these are just some trends that we're seeing and that we want to kind of bring out as part of the application development, conversation. But the cloud computing services is continuing to grow. 38% of their total revenue, and this is a huge opportunity. We're seeing the opportunity for you as a partner is to drive revenue, by leveraging firms like us to help with providing the cloud migration, the deployment, and the management services of these assets. These are all development opportunities. If people have legacy applications that they need to move to an Azure instance, or they need help building that landing zone with for that application, or preparing like SQL databases in Azure, those are huge opportunities. Takes a lot of work to get that right, and ongoing opportunity for you as a partner as well. I already talked a little bit about Copilot, but their AI enabled search engine generated 12 billion in 2023. That was only 6% of their total. That's going to probably quadruple in the next year at least. One of the biggest hangups for Azure and Microsoft back last year was just the compute power to power Copilot. So if you've looked at the pricing for Copilot, that's going to change based on the availability of the actual compute to power it. So if anyone here is in the data center space right now, how hard it is to get power and capacity. One of the biggest reasons for that is because things like Copilot that are trying to go mainstream generate a lot of compute power, and Microsoft and their competitors are all gobbling up all the power across the United States to power those platforms. Another thing that we're seeing, if anyone's got involved in it, is early days is the Azure Arc cloud platform. So a lot of cool capabilities there around tying in multiple platforms, different SaaS applications, different non-Microsoft based applications. So if anyone remembers the Sentinel, Microsoft Sentinel, we were helping with security back then. That used to be kind of Microsoft specific. And then they branched out from a security perspective to monitor, manage, and alert from a SIM perspective on diverse assets. Similar to what they're doing with Azure Arc, right? They very Microsoft centric for processing and automating things in the Microsoft world. Their development has crossed the bridge a little bit, and they're calling it Azure Arc, which helps from a visibility standpoint across multiple different segments. So huge opportunity there for AI enabled services. It's, AI is still kind of that buzzword. People are still trying to figure out how to capitalize on it. We're seeing a ton of opportunity in the integration space and in preparing organizations to use these systems, right? Preparing them. We'll get into that a little bit in a minute here. And then, obviously the Microsoft Cloud and their suite of software, huge revenue, 49 billion for 2023. You can generate significant opportunities with, the implementation, the migration, and the support services. So Quest is a tier 1 CSP. As a partner of yours, if you need any help with that, we can absolutely help you with that. If you're, running a partnership with Microsoft on your own and you just need some, advanced engineering services or consulting or development activity, that's totally fine. We fully understand how to partner in our swim lane and work with partners on how they want to do things. But, from a development standpoint, these trends we're seeing this as a significant part of our development efforts in 2024, and we see this, only continuing to ramp. Software spending, over the last 14 years, this is something I like to bring up with my infrastructure partners and traditional telecom or VAR or hardware folks. Really anyone who's kind of touching and supporting the network, right? So, just as a little backdrop, Quest, about 42 years ago, we've been a VAR for a very long time, helping to sell hardware, software, core infrastructure, network switching, all the good stuff that from physical and some software from a network and infrastructure perspective. But enterprise software is well over this year going to be in the trillions and continuing to grow. So it's continuing to move, and it's going to be very, very significant when you look at the differences here, right? So just in 2023, as kind of as known spending here, the enterprise software was around 856 billion, and all of the network and all the connectivity services and all of the route switching, all that type of platform that we all kind of built our businesses on, from a VAR or telecommunications or network organization, is about maybe a fourth of that. Maybe a little bit more than a fourth, but lots of opportunity in software, lots of opportunity in development. It's significantly more of your client's wallet share than traditional network or infrastructure services. So, and they need help. Organizations need help. The middle market's getting pushed by upstream partners and vendors to continue to advance here. So people are looking for help. People are looking for development. So what is the development life cycle? Like, what does it actually mean? Who's actually doing it? And how is it being managed? These are two methods. This is kind of when you get in that conversation with folks, like, hey, do you have a waterfall practice? Do you run agile in-house? Quest, for the most part, we've engaged in some of, requirements gathering or design or maintenance. We've been plugged in to help manage, operate, or maintain, one of these different waterfall levels here, right? And been doing that for a long time. But when organizations come to us and ask for help, hey, can you guys help us with a platform? Can you guys help us with rolling something out? Can you guys help us with development? We typically, 90% of the time are going to build out an agile practice for that customer. And that is basically based on a continuous cycle and leveraging multiple methodologies. If you're on one of our Quest strategy conversations, boot camps earlier, one of our key abilities, that one of the reasons we can help out with incident response, one of the reasons we can help understand what a client's really dealing with when they're selecting IT, is because we support products, we support disaster recovery, business continuity, professional services. We have, a couple hundred engineers on staff at different disciplines. The same way we can holistically help someone through a security event from an IR standpoint and bring back systems online, source hardware and software and put together, complex integrations. Our company, from an agile standpoint on the operations side, same methodology, same approach, same iterative process when we're doing application development, right? It takes a lot of different skill sets that are all working together in different sprints to help develop an application. It's continual improvement, continual feedback. The agile process, typically the way we do it, is iterate into different sprints. So you have like a scrum master who comes in, and basically you're looking at continual improvement and feedback every week for the customer. In the waterfall aspect of it, it's kind of a little bit more of a monolithic approach, and um, there can be a lot of investment without a lot of necessary feedback and verification, right? You do the requirements, the design, the implementation, and then 4 steps down, you're verifying you're getting what you want at the end of the day. The agile process is continual feedback as far as, hey, this is what I want to see in the application. This is the performance I want to have. And every week, you're getting stand-up calls and you're getting real process tracking as far as what's being delivered. Customers love it. It's an involved process. It takes time of everyone involved. So we gotta understand the business outcome people are looking for. But agile methodology and the agile development process, we've been running it for about 12 years now. Very, very powerful, but it does take a little bit of time. Um, and it's a continuing process. So you're gonna get there. We usually start with like a sprint zero initiative. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit. We plan things out. We get people doing the design and the development, and then we do the review, and then we're tracking that, and you start all over again based on the feedback you have from these two stages here. So a lot of fun. Our teams help organizations, and then your clients might be running this process as well. They might have their own internal development as well. So we'll talk a little bit about if they have their own teams running this, how can you as a partner help them, right? How can you engage in that process with them? So just want to make sure I'm cautious of any questions that might have come up. Paul, how are we doing on questions? Anything sparking up in the Q&A field while we're going through this? Are we doing okay?
No, we're doing good. A couple questions. Well, one question I do have is, do you have a recommended like script or cadence for messaging? Kind of like a campaign of sorts. That's one of the questions we did receive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll get to that in a minute
Okay.
here. Absolutely. Yeah, we do have some. It's a huge process, right? So where do you start? How do you get involved in this? And yeah, that's a great question. We'll jump into that here in a second as far as communicating. Just from a cadence standpoint with our marketing, we typically like to have, pretty simple messages go out about every 2 weeks. You don't want to overwhelm anybody on a specific topic or a specific requirement, but we've had success talking about a current topic, a current issue, and asking if an organization needs help with it. For example, a lot of people are kind of asking people if they need help with the VMware issues going on right now. There's obviously a lot of people want to talk about Copilot, but we'll talk about that in a little bit in a sec here. So um, the basic terms around, there's a ton of different terminology, and Google is your friend as far as finding different things like, hey, what that person just said something, what does that mean? But COTS applications and things like core banking. So like if you're talking to financial services, they have like critical off the shelf applications that like Jack Henry or FIS or different platforms that are going to be critical to their business. So like Microsoft Dynamics, those types of things. Then you have SaaS applications like Workday or Microsoft 365 or those types of applications. Then you have the fun in-house custom in-house developed applications. Uber, they built their own monolith, their own huge application, been wildly successful. And then the database, right? One of the biggest opportunities in application development is around the database and how people are categorizing, accessing, and distributing their data to their applications. This is the one where if I was to say, hey, what's the one area of app dev that people are most likely to engage in a conversation with you on, it's around their database modernization, or their database management, right? So is it SQL based, MySQL, is it Postgres? What is it built on? What's their database built on? Is it Oracle? What do they have? How's it going, right? How are they managing it? Do they need help optimizing it? Do they need help updating it? Those are the database is a huge entry point for helping people with their application journey. Operating system, what's their application? What's it built on? Is it Microsoft? Is it Android? Is it Linux based? And then what language do they need help with, right? So these are more of like, these database, operating system, application language, this is more around the skill sets you would need, that we would need to provide to that partner. Maybe they have, uh, great team for coding and languages and development, but they need some help from a database administrator, right? Or, reverse that. Got a great DBA who's, he or she's got a methodology that is, the best platform. All their queries are happening really, really great, but they need some help with the user experience, right? They're great database, but we got to figure out a way to present that data in a usable fashion. So maybe you need some application folks to help with the user experience. So those are a lot of different building blocks go into actually making these applications work. And then what development methodology do they use? Do they have a mature agile process? Do they want some help with that? Some great opportunities for us have just started with an agile coaching engagement, right? These organizations want to build the capability in-house to, develop some of their own applications or manage some of their own instances. Do they need help just putting together an agile methodology, right? Same process we talked about, a couple weeks ago in the security aspect of things. People want to help secure and manage their own environments, but maybe they don't know how to put a framework together or put a process together to do that. A great way to engage and help your customer is to help them develop that process. So we do agile coaching workshops. We can bring in like a scrum master to help them build out their internal teams. We can staff those internal teams. So the development methodology, just asking, and I know there's no dumb questions, but just asking a dumb question around their database or their development methodology, or if they need any help with that, these are great catalysts to starting that conversation with your client. Now back to Paula, back to you, the question around, hey, how do you engage? And what's the methodology for it? These are simple catalyst questions that we have, around who's responsible. That always tends to that who's responsible can typically lead you to the person who's actually kind of driving that initiative and kind of got the keys to the kingdom over there. So who's responsible for managing your business applications? Are you doing this in-house? Do you work with third parties? How is that process going? What would you like to see different if you could? One thing that we see is, as far as, hey, how can we start, affecting our clients at the bottom line for them, right? Everyone's running a business, whether it's, private sector or public. Application rationalization is a great way to kind of spark some interest, because there are the subscription costs for SaaS applications and different overlapping products in the application space are massive opportunity right now. So Quest uses a couple tools to help people, do a rationalization project around the different applications that they have. You come in, it's if anyone's familiar with like a telecom expense management engagement, where you come in and you audit the current circuits that they have, and hey, maybe this one doesn't need to be here anymore. It's the same type of approach, but just replace the technology of connectivity with SaaS subscriptions, right? You audit that environment, like, hey, how many E3 licenses do you really need, right? How many endpoint protection subscription licenses do you really need? These two products kind of do the same thing. Which one, from a business outcome standpoint, do you really need? So you do an application rationalization project. You map out everything that they have, and then you can help them save money, and then you can help them tie platforms together that maybe have similar functions. So great engagement opportunity from an assessment standpoint. I think our next boot camp is around assessments. This is one of the assessments that we do is around application rationalization. Um, and then, having that agile conversation, right? How would you like to have a workshop around that? Discuss the agile methodology, bring in a scrum master to help you with that platform and help you with that methodology, or see, if your team's already 50, 80% of the way there. Those are great. Those are great to do as well. So being curious about that, ask the questions. You're in the room with the same people, most likely, who are at least touching the application world. They might not be your typical, IT director, or network administrator, or even system administrator, or systems teams person. Those are all folks who are keeping the pipes and keeping the platform operational. There's their counterparts in the dev world who, very similar to them, they need help too. They need help with managing those systems. They need help with operating them. Just, be curious about that. Ask that question. It can spark some huge opportunity. From a tactical standpoint, how to engage, and getting involved in, a billable or a contracted relationship around application development. These are our top three, right? So back to my comments around the database. No, I don't know, majority of people you talk to, some have their database wired tight, they're squared away, they know exactly it's performing exactly the way they want it to. A lot of people aren't, right? A lot of people have issues with, the length of a query, like how it's performing, how it's tying in, how they're pulling data to other applications, how they're sharing data, east-west within their environment. So doing just a database assessment, regardless of what it is, it could be, again, it could be, SQL instance or others. We can come in there and do a full database assessment for them. Reviews performance, gives them actionable feedback as far as areas of improvement. And then, Quest as an ongoing service can provide database management. We can provide staffing around a DBA to help if they need, like, a couple hours a month for, tuning or things like that. Provide them the full gap assessment of where they're at. And then also just, plug them in to an ongoing service subscription, or just help them with people to help manage that database. Then the API security review. That's one of those things where people are automating more and more. Everyone kind of says, yeah, we have an API for that. We have an API for that. That's awesome. And it's convenient, and it's great. But managing the east-west traffic and securing traffic between your environment, and who's communicating with what policies, all that kind of stuff from a security standpoint, doing that security code review, really can identify possible areas of vulnerability. And a lot of people aren't, necessarily engaging there. There's thousands of people who could do penetration tests and vulnerability scans, and, you Google those terms, and, you'll get slammed with 1,000 vendors who can help you there. Application security and code review is something that, if your client is in the, continuous improvement, agile cycle, or a version of that, they might not be doing that code review, and they might want to plug, a firm like Quest in to help with that as part of their agile process. So even if they have, an in-house development, they might want to have a third party come in and do that security code review for them, right? So same with like a penetration test or vulnerability scan. A lot of firms don't necessarily want their MSP or their in-house IT firm, conducting their own vulnerability scan, because, they're kind of judging themselves. So having a third party come in and do a quick code review, great opportunity to get involved in their development lifecycle, which is great. And then for us, if you ever get us involved in an opportunity around it, you're going to hear something called Sprint Zero. The Sprint Zero is a process where we assess their current, if they describe a business outcome they're looking for within an application or a development project that they have. We're going to, 9 times out of 10, we're going to propose a Sprint Zero, which is going to assess their backlog, basically their technical debt of where they are today, and where they want to go, and basically the steps they need to go through to get to where they want to go. So sprint zeros are they're a fantastic option for, if it doesn't matter if they're going through a modernization, an upgrade, or a migration effort. It helps identify the level of effort that that client, whether they use us or another third party or whoever, it's we kind of say like, hey, here's where you're at. Here's how long of a journey you're going on. That's a 5 mile run, or no, that's a 500 mile run, right? So help scope that out for folks. Reasons we're seeing this, again, we'll distribute this with the team, not to bore you with another top 10 list here, but a lot of opportunity, very, very sticky, multi-year engagements. I know a lot of people like to focus on monthly reoccurring and managed services and what's my subscription, what's my cost per user, and all that stuff's great, and I love it too. It helps keep the lights on and keeps the bankers happy. But application development is very, very sticky. In our world, it's classified as professional services. But if you get tied into key applications within your clients, you're not going anywhere. You're helping them with critical aspects of their IT environment. You're helping them build out code. You're helping them, gain advantage on their competition. You're helping them generate demand. You're helping them with their own client growth, and you're helping to future-proof their organization. You have huge upsell opportunities because you're touching everything that their business does, right? You get to understand what their users are dealing with. You get to understand what their customers are dealing with. You get very, very close with them, and you get to have that business outcome conversation that, us here at Quest, I had a partner just this morning ask, like, hey, what's a good opportunity for Quest? Candidly, a good opportunity for Quest is when the customer is willing to work with us and share the outcome that they're looking for and work with us to build that together. That's the golden ticket right there, when you're willing to have that business outcome conversation. And application development leads directly to business outcome conversations. You have to. You can't just like say, hey, quote me how XYZ widget is going to cost, and then go shop that against 10 other people. It doesn't work that way in application development. Some people would like it to, but just as a small caveat there, do not treat application development and system integration projects like a transaction for hardware, buying a firewall, or buying a telecommunications circuit, or even buying a data center. Totally different engagement methodology. And that's why we love it, because you get to that business outcome conversation. As an example, we had a great win with a partner. It's continuing to perform, continuing to go. I think we're coming up on a little over 2.5 years now of this project. We were initially engaged to help with, I believe, it was a $4,000 or $5,000 database assessment. I think they were having some challenges with some queries in their environment, and asked us to come in to review a SQL instance. As part of that, we went through the sprint zero and had a conversation around why was that database issue affecting their business. And it went to a significant issue they were having with their customers, as far as leaving, kind of like that example I gave, leaving the queue from making a purchasing decision. So, fast forward, 2+ years later, the project has booked well over $3 million in total revenue from an application development standpoint. And it's gone through 3 different IT leaders within the firm. So, and what's critical about that is people come and go. CTOs, I think, have a average lifespan of about 18 months at organizations. I don't know if that was CTOs or CIOs, but they have a short lifespan sometimes, just because it's a tough gig. But from a development standpoint, when you get tied into critical aspects of their delivery, you're seen as an asset rather than a liability, right? And that's a huge opportunity, something that we've value very highly. And if you do well for that CIO or that CTO in the application space, that also helps cross into other opportunities. So the partner who actually helped execute on this one initially, one of the IT leaders who was involved in the project from the outset, moved on to new, greater and better things. Obviously brought that partner with him, and that partner brought us into that development project, which led to another, multi-million-dollar development project. So huge opportunities. Everybody's dealing with this. Everybody's, struggling with, optimizing what they have. And especially in the middle market, there's the big four, there's the huge firms out there. Coca-Cola, as much as I'd love for them to give me a call, I've never gotten a call from Coca-Cola or any of those guys in the, Fortune, 5 or 10 or whatever they are. But in the middle market, there are 10,000 organizations that are in the same level as this one. So 10,000 organizations that are dealing with different aspects of, challenges around their database, their performance for their end users, and huge opportunities. So your customers are dealing with this. They're doing this. They're looking for help in this area. And this is an example of a U.S. Finance-based organization that needed help with tying a lot of back-end systems together to deliver a clean deliverable to their end users and to their loan originators. And we were able to help with that and continue to help with that. So great opportunity there. I know we're coming up on time here. Appreciate you guys sitting with me and going through this. Again, huge opportunity, fastest growing area that we're seeing. And a lot of us built our business on network integration. We built our businesses on data centers and telecommunications and route switch and core networking infrastructure. Application development, applications and software integration is at least 3x the market size opportunity of what we've all built our businesses on. So, and the same people you're talking to are touching these opportunities within their accounts. So have the conversation, ask if they need some help. You have resources from a partner perspective to help you with that. And everybody's spending money here. So everyone is looking for, a good way to develop their applications and have a good partner for the long term. And you don't have to start with I know you read some vendor speak and some white papers and Gartner or whoever's, the latest and greatest. And I even did it in this presentation, so I apologize. You don't have to start with the huge digital transformation effort. You don't have to tackle the entire hey, I'm gonna win this company's ERP migration, or I'm gonna win this organization. They're buying a CRM. I'm gonna go lead the charge and wrap my arms around that entire project. Very difficult to do. Very difficult to do that. But if you start small with a database assessment, an initial review, maybe an application rationalization project, start small, and these things can hockey stick as long as you bring a partner in that can help perform. Which we've been doing this for about 15 years. Very successful process and mature practice for us. So those would be kind of the 3 takeaways for us. Huge opportunity, market size. Everybody needs help in this, and start small with an assessment or a database engagement or anything like that. So I don't know if there were any questions or anyone had anything they wanted to dive into, but I'd love to chat with the team here if anyone's got any questions.
Yeah, Adam, thanks for the that's a lot of good information. Appreciate it. So we do have a couple questions. So I know we're limited on time, and before we do the raffle, let's do some questions. Dylan asks, as far as AI-based implementations, is there potential to manage these services over time for these companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So, within the AI implementations, one of the biggest areas is managing the database and the data that goes into those applications. So right now, we're seeing people need help classifying their data and managing what the AI engines have access to. So huge opportunity in managed services around helping organizations classify what they have and then manage that going forward. Because even with AI, even with machine learning, it's still the same old saying, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have that process standardized and managed, you're going to be in a tough spot. So yeah, there's fantastic ongoing opportunities around helping organizations manage that practice. It could be through just staffing an architect or a senior DBA in there, so you can put we can help place someone in there for them, and there's revenue opportunities for you guys there in that space. Or if they want more of an automated, like third party, like from our security operations or our network operations team, they can do that as well.
Great. James was wondering, are there any stay away type projects?
No, not really. There are organizations that put up very large barriers to entry to having third-party integrators play along, right? So firms like SAP or Oracle can sometimes make it very difficult to get into that development lifecycle with them. And that's just because it takes a lot of investment to get certified in those platforms, and they do a good job of protecting the incumbents. So, that's just the nature of the beast there. So IBM, Oracle, SAP, those types of like major, ERP and CRM and financial services platforms. Those can be a little tough, but it's really the customer's decision as far as how they want to engage. We engage in all of them with staffing. We can source people, and we can help with development efforts. It's not a problem. But if you have a customer who says, "Hey, I need someone certified in this specific platform," maybe peel back the onion on that and understand that a little bit more, because that might be tied to like licensing costs or things with those large providers. So just
Great.
have a conversation about it, see what that means.
And also, real quick, Art was wondering, from an agile engagement, if we have enough time for this. From an agile engagement, I'm assuming it will be a monthly retainer, right? If so, what is the typical per hour cost and average, and what is the percentage of a partner payout?
Yeah, so great question. So it is retainer based, and it's based on the amount of resources that are going to be in that sprint. And we do weekly stand-up calls, daily stand-up calls, and weekly resource reports, and then approvals for the following week. So basically, what we do is, hey, we stand up the resources. We got 10 of these, 2 of these people, 3 of these people. This is the resource team that's going to be going through the sprint, and we report that every week. So we classify app development the same, and this might be different with different service providers out there. But if you're working through a TSB, our classification is the same as professional services for application development. So if you're in the back office, your TSB, and you're looking at percentages and things like that, it's professional services as far as we're concerned, and it pays out the same way. If you're not, with a TSB and you need an introduction or anything like that, or you want to talk about it, with us, just shoot us a note. Happy to follow up with you on what that looks like.
Great. And a quick reminder that June 5th, our next webinar will be on June 5th, and that will be how to sell technical on-call services and watch additional opportunities grow. So technical on-call services will be on June 5th as a webinar. So sign up, join us, or if you can't watch, you can always watch later. We have all these webinars recorded and uploaded for partners, and you can find that on our YouTube. But you have to access them through our partner portal. So be sure to get involved in our partner portal, and you can access all the webinars, past ones as well. We are now
just real quick because I hate portals myself. They annoy me to no end. This portal right here. So if you go to this portal link right here, it's not password protected. You don't need to have a username and password or anything like that. It's very, very accessible content. So don't be like, oh, I felt the eye roll when Paul said partner portal.
It's not a terrible portal.
So, yeah.
We pride ourselves on providing good portals here at Quest.
Yeah, so you can check it out. There's great content on there for partners. It's directly in there. And yeah, that definitely will, Jim. So if everyone wants to put the partner portal in the chat, that'd be great.
Great. Right now, though, we're coming to that $200 giveaway. Justin, if you could make a random selection from everybody here, that'd be awesome. Who is the winner for a $200 gift card?
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And thank you, Ab, for the great presentation. Looks like our winner today is Crystal Lure. So congratulations, Crystal. We'll be reaching out with info, so shoot your email, and thanks.
Great. Congratulations, Crystal. Again, June 5th will be our next webinar. You can sign up for that. How to sell technical on-call services. Adam, any final words before we call it a webinar?
No, appreciate everyone. I know everyone's very busy, and this was a solid hour of your time. So thank you very much for joining. If you have any questions or any details you want to follow up with, please, check out the partner page, registration links in there, or partners@questsys.com. We do have someone who'll be reaching out as a follow-up to this engagement, this webinar, to see if anyone wants to have a more detailed discussion with the Quest team. So again, appreciate you all very much for your time.